At the end of April, I had £67,000 in a stocks and shares ISA and £203,137 in a Hargreaves Lansdown SIPP. Today we're going to have a look at what stocks paid me dividends in that month and the total combined of what passive income they paid me. Welcome to Destination Wealth. So back at the end of April, as I say, we had £67,000 in the ISA with Interactive Investor and £203,137 in a stocks and shares SIPP with Hargreaves Lansdown. We're going to have a look at what stocks paid me dividends in that month. It was a pretty bad month. It was one of the worst months for dividends for me. But as I'm recording this in early September, it all comes good. So here we go. Right, so if we look at the ISA, the first stock that paid me in the ISA in April was Gore Street Energy Storage Fund. Now, Gore Street are a fairly recent acquisition of mine. They specialize in diversified utility scale energy storage battery farms, basically, in UK, Ireland, and Europe and North America. So when there's excess wind farm or solar energy on the grid, they store that and then sell it back to the grid when there's shortages. So, I thought it was a pretty good forward-looking investment, eco energy, storage, that sort of thing. Gore Street in the ISA actually paid me two payments, one of £6.58 and one of £15.36. Not huge amounts, but there you go. And that was the only payments I had in the ISA for the whole of April. Pretty poor. So April payments in total were £21.94 in the ISA. Now moving on to the SIPP with Hargreaves Lansdown. Now I also own Gore Street in the SIPP as well. But the first payment that came into me in the SIPP was Trifast. Now Trifast are a kind of engineering company. They engineer all different types of fasteners, metal fasteners, that sort of thing. They're tied quite heavily to the automotive industry, but they make fasteners, clips, all that sort of thing. So they paid me a dividend in the SIPP of £12.91. Again, small amount for them. I own a very small amount of that company. They're quite small, so it was a bit of a risky one. Not doing particularly well on that, but they're a very small part of my portfolio. And then also, like I said, the second company that I own that paid me dividends in April in the SIPP was Gore Street again. So I've got Gore Street. The reason I bought Gore Street in both is because it's a fund rather than an individual stock. So in theory, it's a little less risky. It's not done great, to be honest. And there's different ways of looking at how to invest in those, which I'll get onto in a different video. But Gore Street paid me, again, two separate payments. I own a bit more of this in the SIPP. So they paid me £27.97 for the first payment. And then the second was £65.26. And that was it for April in the SIPP. That was a total of £106.14 of dividend payments in the SIPP. So the complete combined payments of the SIPP and the ISA dividend payments was a measly £128.08. And you can see from this chart here, which tracks the combined dividend payments, well down on last year, April historically is always a low paying month in dividends for me, just the way it lies. But it was half of last year. And again, like I've said before, that's because some payments fall into different months, but it's, you know, pretty dire. So you can see I'm tracking so far for the year at £3,162.74 in total dividends, which is an average for the first 4 months of the calendar year of 263.56. So quite a bit of catching up to do. And I know we do it because I'm recording this in September, so it all comes good over the summer months. Now, I've done many videos of these of each month. I'm trying to catch up to September, so I'll knock these out pretty quickly till we get to September and the August payments before that, and bring us up to date. Well on track for beating last year. So as you can see, last year just shy of £7,000 in dividends for the whole year, or an average monthly figure of £579, which is nice. And all that gets reinvested straight back into the stocks that paid me those dividends via a drip plan. I'll put details on the screen now of what that actually is, but all brokers, I think all brokers, most brokers offer this. The two I've got do anyway, Interactive Investor and Hargreaves Lansdown, whereby what you do is you set this up that as soon as they pay you dividends, the broker is instructed to automatically buy more shares of the same company that paid you those dividends, which in turn just grows that holding, pays you more dividends the next time because you own more stock, more individual stock of those companies. And you've got more chance of gaining more capital growth as well because of that. So if you'd like to see a video on how I grew my investments up to over £300,000 and how long it took me, check this one out next.